Awesome. Welcome everybody to another edition of Coach's Corner. I'm here with the bearded one himself, John Sinclair, co-founder and chief movement engineer at Seven Movements. And I, of course, am Dan Tatton. I am also co-founder
Of course you are.
Seven Movements. And let's jump into it, John.
Cool. You said, of course, I'm Dan Tatton. I said, of course you are.
Of course I am. I was like trying to convince myself I am who I am. I'm very meta today. Yeah. So, before we get started, I'll ask everybody, we've got a couple of cool updates at Seven Movements. We're running a contest right now with our partners over at Liber Fitness. If you go over to our Instagram account, you can get in on that. They're giving away a pair of Liber Fitness equalizer bars, along with the amazing daily dose program that we put together in partnership with Mark and his team over there. So that's very exciting. And the other thing that you can check out is, and John doesn't even know this yet, is our new Seven Movements website went live last night. So if you want to kind of go see the new and feel of Seven Movements, pop on over there and tell us what you think. Love to hear from you. So how's it going today, John?
Crazy day today. Had a really good talk with a coach that's working in Saudi Arabia today. So it was a really fun conversation with her, and ready to kick this one off. And this will be the last thing I have to do tonight. So
amazing. Okay. Well, we got a few questions from the audience, all kind of like really great questions coming in. The first one is actually, if John was to recommend one piece of home fitness equipment, what would it be?
It's a really good question. Somewhat depends on your budget, because one piece of fitness equipment could be like lots of money, or it could just be, something you could get with $100. So really just depends on what your budget is. For me, my go-to things are things that, if it was one thing, it would be something that I could use to do like an infinite number of exercises with, right? So I tend to gravitate towards, like, if I wanted something that has a little bit of weight to it to challenge myself, then I obviously will pick something that's free weight in nature. I tend to gravitate towards the Viper Pros, which are just behind me here. They are an amazing tool. I'm biased because I'm the director of programming for them. So I usually recommend someone get something like that, or a medicine ball, or even a single or set of dumbbells, because once you learn movement, you can use those to offset many, many, many hundreds of thousands of drills. So that's kind of where I lean towards, is usually a piece of free weight equipment, something that's portable, something you can move around, something you could take outside, something you could do in your living room, something you could do just about anywhere. So those are a few things that I kind of lean towards first, and then we start building out more and more stuff as you go.
And John doesn't know when to
become
quit.
Very good. That's true. That's true.
He doesn't have an off switch when it comes to home exercise equipment. So
no.
So that's awesome. I love the Viper Pro too, because
some people are into cars. I'm into gym equipment.
So. That's right. Yeah. I tend to gravitate towards the Viper Pro as well, particularly because I can sort of take it with me wherever I go, especially if you're going somewhere in a car, which is nice. And I'll plug our friends over at Liber Fitness right now too, because putting those equalizer bars under your desk at work is like a perfect little tool to have for microdosing movement. I really enjoy that as well.
There's my Liber equalizers. Can you see them there?
Oh yeah, the nice green ones. Beauty.
Yeah.
Beauty. So really good question. And I think really, again, this is one of those ones that comes back to the individual person a little bit and what they're trying to do as well. But lots of great tools out there. Join our collective community. We talk about them all the time on there, and sometimes have discounts available from some of our partners as well. So awesome. So we got another sort of specific question. I'm going to try and make it more vague, because you can't, as you know, we don't like to get too specific here, so we got to ask more questions of these people. But so I'm 14, 14-year-old hockey player, just starting to work out, never worked out before. Should I be hiring a personal trainer for my exercise programming, or could I just follow something on the internet? I like this question because this is probably a very common question that people come across.
For sure. Most of the stuff that you'll probably see on the internet is, based around the foundations of lifting weights, primarily set in bodybuilding type of activities, which are a great place to start. So learning the basic strength training lifts that are usually taught in bodybuilding is an awesome way to start. But there is tremendous value in hiring a coach that obviously is well versed in the game of hockey, but also is well educated and certified as a personal trainer. So by hiring somebody that's going to enhance your performance in the sport, there are two ways to go, because you're kind of new at working out. Then, we want to teach you all the basic fundamental types of exercise that help with the sport, and that you can kind of learn on your own, but it's never going to be as good as having an expert guide you and coach you through the process. So I would lean towards, if it's within your means, hire a professional to help coach you through it, because you're going to learn more from that professional than my guess would be that you will learn from your sport coach. Because most of our sport coaches aren't as highly credentialed as coaches as our personal trainers and those people that specialize in coaching athletes.
Right. Yeah. Your sport coach is probably going to be great at coaching you the fundamentals of your sport and some skills and gameplay and all of those things that a good coach does. And then your exercise coach is going to help you perform better, move better, have the ability to perform those skills better, and all of the above. So I think that's a really good
better.
Recover better. Yes, thank you. That's a really good one, especially teaching them young. That recovery piece, that's something that you won't find much of on the internet in those programs.
That's right.
You won't be talking about recovery much. So yeah, I think you benefit a ton from hiring a skilled exercise coach that'll help walk you through how to start, which will be great. Okay, we got our very seems to be commonplace, but I'm going to keep asking these questions because they keep coming in around weight loss. So another weight loss question, and this one's about cycling in particular. And it really just says, I've been doing spin class for over a year and haven't lost a pound. Okay. I've been doing it consistently, like you guys talk about. But again, I haven't lost any weight. I've been trying to eat better. What do you think is going on? This is a tough question again, because we don't have all of the information, but let's just make some assumptions here that this person is eating better. They are going to spin class consistently. What could potentially be going on here, John?
The first thing that comes to my mind is biologically, as human beings and as most organisms are, we tend to want to conserve energy before we expend energy. So if we are consistently expending energy in one modality and one modality only, then the body gets really good at knowing that, well, whatever I eat, I need to make sure that I have some fuel stored, because I'm anticipating going back to do the same type of activity. So in the case of spin classes, then, I'll make the assumption that you're probably doing more anaerobic type of activity while at spin class, because it's generally how they program it. They're not really slow pace in classes. They're usually like really fast, and you get some interval stuff going on. You got some high speed tempo work going on, which is generally taking you over 70% of your max heart rate. So essentially what's happening is you are probably needing to store more carbohydrates. And so most of the fuels that your body needs is going to be carbohydrates. Generally speaking, when we try to eat better, we tend to not eat as many carbohydrates. And so what happens is your body has to try to conserve as much energy as possible. So whatever foods we take it in, we're more efficient at, if we're not taking in carbohydrates, we're really efficient at storing fat. And so the reason why we store fat is that we can yield lots of energy from a fat molecule. So while you're eating healthier, your body's conserving energy because it's required for the activity that you do. So one of the things that we recommend people that are, having a hard time losing weight is to cycle their, maybe I should use a different term than cycle, shift the type of activity you're doing throughout the day, as well as space out some time between your spinning classes, just to let your body recover a little bit more and to allow your body to have to anticipate different types of exercise, so that you have to use different fuels with different proportions of fuels. So for example, on Monday, I did a pretty high dose of cardiovascular exercise where I did 15 minutes on the bike, 15 minutes on the ski machine behind me, 15 minutes on the rowing machine, and then back to 15 minutes on the bike. It was a high cardiovascular load, but my body used more fuels from the anaerobic sources because I was working at a pretty high tempo. And then the following day, I did a very low intensity strength training event. So I did some core exercises and some low light weights at a very low load so that my body had the opportunity to store the right fuels it needed for the next bout of high intensity activity. So if we're always doing the same type of exercise at the same intensities, the same classes over and over again, your body's going to want to try to find a homeostasis, and it doesn't want to lose weight. It doesn't want to gain weight. It wants to stay like this. So that's one of the challenges that we have is we get committed to one type of activity and then we try to stick with it. And then we, another word for this is plateau, right? Like
That's right.
Everything stays about status quo, and that's homeostasis. Like that's the body's way of balancing out energy expenditure with energy intake. And then it becomes like a teeter-totter that's happening here. And the body will do that because, again, we need to conserve energy as an organism. We don't want to be in a state of depletion of energy.
Right. Not to mention doing the same thing over and over. It's probably getting very efficient at that exercise as well.
100%.
So you're going to have to work harder and harder in that spin class to actually expend the same amount of energy. So that could be another piece of the puzzle. Maybe, expand a little bit, John, on the variability piece, because we talk about this all the time of like that importance of variability in the type of exercise you're doing, in the type of food you're eating. Like it crosses the spectrum, but just expand a little bit on that.
So one of the ways to make sure you're really nourishing and enriching your cells is to be challenging your body's capacities, but also your abilities. So by us having a variable approach to the way we exercise is only going to provide sustainability and long-term viability of your structures, your nervous system, the way we think, how the body repairs itself after exercise, how you tolerate stress. You should never be going into a situation where you're always doing the same type of activity at the same intensity. That's like recipe for a breakdown, right? Your tissues aren't going to be able to handle it. Those folks that want to go and do high intensity activity all the time, eventually they're going to break down. And so it's going to be in one of four key domains that we've talked about, either physically, cognitively, mentally and emotionally, or in some cases, it's going to start to affect your relationships. because there's only so much stress you can put into the system without allowing it to recover. So, and the same is to be said for your nutrition. You need to eat a variety of different foods with a variety of different colors, textures, tastes. All those things are going to be really important, because every time you eat something that's different, that's providing a different chemical reaction that's happening in the body, which the cells need. So
awesome. Yeah, I love that. Variability is the key to a lot of pieces of our health, isn't it? And so last question, and I tied this one on the back end of this question because they're everything you just talked about is very relevant to this next question. And so we've got a gentleman who's a runner, and he says, hey boys, I'm a runner. I run every day, minimum 5K. I can't even touch my toes and my hips hurt all the time. Any recommendations for me to get out of pain?
Yeah. So when we do a repetitive bout of activity, so the same modality or the same mode of activity, then again, your body's going to try to search to be as efficient as possible. But that also means that we are loading the body with the same amount of forces in the same way over and over and over and over and over again. So if you were to, let's just say we took in a 5-kilometer run, imagine how many steps you're doing in 5 kilometers, right? And if we painted the parallel picture of we're going to do dumbbell arm curls for the same number of repetitions, generally speaking, those tissues are going to start to get really, really tight and wound
sore
up.
Shoulders and elbows, and
you got it. Everything's going to start to become compressed. So we do that with aerobic activity because we're naturally aerobic organisms. So human beings are aerobic in nature. We tend to have a very large capacity for aerobic activity. The challenge to that is your structures, like way back when we were running on dirt and grass and running over things, now we tend to pound pavement, don't we? And so we've got an increase in ground reaction force without a whole lot of elastic elements coming from that pavement. So every time your foot strikes the ground, you're getting, an equal and opposite reaction going through those structures, always in the same way. So the tissues and joints that they involve are going to start to break those tissues down, and or the body is only getting stronger in that one particular modality. So the modality of running. So what would happen is that the tissues in and around the lower leg, the foot and the ankle, the lower leg, crossing the knee, going into the hip, into the pelvis and spine, are always being loaded in the same direction. So the variable type of exercise that we could give you is designed such so that it unloads some of the tissues that are constantly loaded and help balance out your body's capacity to be able to tolerate stresses from running. And so that's why we focus so heavily on mobility training, making sure that you have the adequate, not just the adequate space in the joints, but the optimal space in each joint, because one joint affects the joints going up what is known as the kinetic chain. So if I have a joint that isn't functioning properly at the foot and the ankle, you could be darn well put your money down on you got problems at the knee. So if you have problems at the knee, there's probably something going on at the hip. If you got problems at the hip, there can also be something going on down the chain towards the knee and the foot and the ankle. So what we have to address is trying to create, as my good friend Michelle Delcourt says, try to find the instantaneous axis of rotation of every joint in the body. And the only way that we can do that is providing really smart strategies towards enhancing your mobility and making sure that we do recovery strategies after your run. So prepping you before you run, running with really good mechanics, which is how we teach people to run more efficiently. And then finally, making sure we teach them how to recover to be able to tolerate that. And then on days when they're not running, we're working on other patterns to help facilitate health in the body so that you can do the things that you really love doing, which obviously is running.
Right. Well, I'm curious, would you ever, from just a health perspective, advise someone to run every single day? Like, is that something that you, even if they're like, hey, I love this, John, I want to, you can't take my running away, but I'm really just trying to get healthier. Would you ever advise someone to run every single day?
I think from a big picture standpoint, I'd probably say you could run every day provided you're doing all the other things,
Right.
but that we wouldn't run the same distance at the same pace.
Right. Variability.
Right. So we would vary your program so that you can tolerate different distances, doing different types of runs. The challenge happens like when a lot of people were either they were really good at running when they're younger and then they continue it later on in life,
Right.
because that's what they do. It's like
Yeah.
you and I with skating, right?
Yeah.
Like we just love skating because that's a thing that we do,
Yeah.
or playing any sport for that matter. So what I would say from a health standpoint though is, and we have to be careful with this, because if we advise somebody to take something out of their life that they're truly love,
Right.
then that's going to affect them in other domains, right?
Yeah.
So if they didn't get their run in, what are the other stressors that's going to affect them, right? Like if that's their release, if that becomes their physical way of decreasing their stress, right?
Right.
Then now that stress is going to get forced somewhere else. So we have to be cognizant of that. We also have to look at, when you're over the age of 40, you should be getting a yearly physical and making sure that your heart is functioning properly. You're getting a regular EKG done or an ECG done, to make sure that your heart is operating healthy. Endurance athletes in general, those people that really take it far,
Right.
they have a higher incidence of myocardial infarctions, so heart attack,
Yeah.
because they've got a really large chambers in the heart, but the heart muscle isn't as strong because they only run.
Right.
So the opposite's true of weightlifters. They got really strong heart muscle or enlarged heart muscle because they train at such high intensities, but the chambers are actually too small. So again, you want to try to have a balance of strength and resistance training with aerobic training to have optimal health benefits. So what we'd say for most runners that love it that much is I might not say talk them out of it. We'd talk about let's balance out your program.
Right.
Right. And so in your running days, we'd have different varying levels of stress, distances, paces, speed play, things like that are in it so that they would get the benefits not only mechanically, but also metabolically and neurologically and
Right.
of course, hormonally. So
Amazing. That was a great answer. I'm glad we went down that rabbit hole, that last question. So that's great.
I mean, I think that's it's most people don't know that this is what we have the capacity to do, Dan, is that we
Yeah.
have the ability to look at biology and then take the information that we know and know how many forces are going, the quantity and magnitude of forces that are entering somebody's body, and then be able to balance it all out with proper programming so that people don't break down.
Right.
And then we use other technologies and the other medical professions to help us guide and inform our I hate the term hacking, but our abilities to really look at the biological systems and program them for success. So
Right.
that's really what I do is I spend a lot of time analyzing data, looking at the mechanics of not only just each individual, but looking at the mechanics of efficiency for certain joints and how that shows up in different movements than just what your favorite movements are, and then crafting a program to enhance your strengths, eliminate some weaknesses, and but overall create a balance to a training program that most people don't know that that's possible, right? And so, and
Yeah.
that if they're not an Olympic athlete, that oh wow, this is available to me, and yeah, it is. Like there are really, really, really great coaches out there that know how to assess you, know how to enhance your capacity and your mechanical abilities, and can make it more enjoyable for you. So just like, a tennis coach is going to help you with your forehand. We have coaches that can help you run more efficiently. So
yeah, I like that. And maybe that's actually something we'll dive into next Coach's Corner is
Sure.
as far as identifying the right coach for you, because everything that you just said, you're right. A lot of people don't understand that a really quality exercise coach is going to be doing all of the things that you're talking about. And quite often coaches get looked at, maybe rightfully so in some cases, as kind of a workout buddy who's going to push them and yell at them and get them to lift heavy things and jump up and down really fast.
Yep.
So I think that'd be a great conversation. So if you're a regular listener to Coach's Corner, send in your questions about the coaching industry and how to pick a coach and all of that kind of stuff. And we'll be answering them on the next episode of Coach's Corner. Awesome. Thanks, Johnny.
You bet, buddy.
All right. Take care, everybody.